Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Bloomer Academy. As you can see, we've put it in our slide here. It is a lovely, cool 61 degrees in Indianapolis, Indiana today. I'm personally very excited for the fall weather coming. I hope you are as well. If you're inclined to let us know where you're dialing in from and what the weather like is in your area, please feel free to let us know in the chat. We haven't officially started yet. We just want to make sure that everything's up and running correctly. So if you can hear me and if you can see our opening slide, if you could please click on that raise hand button from your end. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Allison, Jocelyn, Madison, Heather, and everyone else who is already here with us today. It looks like it's raining in Boise, Idaho today. We had some good rain yesterday as well here in Indy, but full of Florida sunshine and still hot in Los Angeles. I hope you are staying cool wherever you are or enjoying the upcoming fall weather. You can join the online audio where you can dial in. The number is 669-900-6833. This is a great number to have in hand in case you have any internet connectivity issues or you need an interpreter to dial in for you. You can use this number and not miss out on any of the great content that that we have for you today. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A. Our main presenter today is Margie Worrell. You'll meet her here in a little bit, but I'll be helping answer your questions behind the scenes. My name is Diana. You may have seen me in some of our other Academy classes before. It is a little easier for us to keep track of the Q&A in the question and answer section, just to make sure that we are able to answer all of your questions. But if we don't get to all of your questions live today, we'll make sure to send a follow-up via email. Chat is also open today, as you all have seen, or as you've seen the weather reports rolling in. But if there's any questions, comments, insights, experiences you would like to share with each other, chat is a great place to put that because you can have it set to everyone and share that with everyone. We also have the live transcript available. If that's something that you would like to toggle on or off, you can do that from your end. Before I introduce Margie, also a reminder that this class is being recorded. So after today's class, you'll get an email with a link to the recording and the slides. And we are right on time here now, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining us today. Our presenter for today is Margie Worrell. She is our curriculum manager here at Bloomerang. She serves on the board of the Peace Learning Center in Indianapolis and has worked extensively with nonprofits as both staff member and lead volunteer. Her passions include education, theater, her 2 children, and her 2 small dogs. Thank you so much for joining us today, Margie.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate that warm introduction. And thank you to all of you for being here today. Really appreciate that. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. So let's go ahead and do that. Hopefully what you're seeing is something that says solicitation mailings. Does that?
I'm seeing your inbox right now.
Oh, well, that's probably not what we want to do. So I'm going to stop sharing. Let's try that again. All right. Now, hopefully what you're seeing is solicitation mailings. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay. So today I'm going to talk to you about solicitation mailings. This is something that comes up quite a bit for our nonprofit organizations. And first of all, I want to start off by saying thank you to all of you for everything that you do in your local communities. The work you do is vital, and I want to say a sincere thank you for that. So, but let's go ahead and launch into what we're going to talk about today. This is our agenda for today. So we're going to start off with a quick poll, and we're going to utilize our chat, practice utilizing that. The quick poll is, what's your experience level with the Bloomerang letter tool? Are you a beginner? You haven't really used it? Maybe you are intermediate level, you've played around with it, maybe used it for a couple of things, or you're confident and you know a lot of the ins and outs. And be careful, because if you answer that way, I might have you teach the class today. So just joking. Okay.
Margie, it looks like we have 53% are at a beginner level, 43 are intermediate, and we have 5% who are pretty confident.
Excellent. Okay, 5%. I'm looking at you right now. I'm just kidding. I'm going to teach the class. Okay, so that's great. I'm so glad to see that many of you have already utilized this tool. That's wonderful. And we're going to also practice using the chat in just a moment as well, which a lot of you have already sent in your weather reports. Really appreciate that. It's amazing to me how different the weather can be across our country. Also, we're going to set the scene. I have actually a little scenario that we're going to walk through together today to work on our letter writing, our solicitation letter writing. Then we're going to talk about using Bloomerang's filtering tool. This is a great tool to be able to really help you hone in and segment your audience so that you're able to really have personalized communication with your stakeholders. Then we're going to talk about how you can create letters efficiently inside the Bloomerang database. It's really a wonderful tool, and I'm going to show you some kind of tips for how to use it in a way that might make it a little easier for you as you get ready to create those letters. And then at the end, we're going to have a little time for Q&A. So that is our day in a nutshell. We've already done our poll, so let's move on to doing our chat. So what are you most interested in learning about today? And you can just enter the number for this. 1, customizing letters with merge fields. 2, formatting and designing your letter. 3, generating and printing letters. Or 4, segmenting your list. Okay, I see 4s, a 2, 1 and 2. Yeah, you can put more than 1. Excellent. All. Okay, great. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of 1, 2s, 4s. Okay, excellent. We'll go outside design area. Okay, all of that sounds great. Wonderful, good. The good news is this: we are going to cover all of these topics today. So if you hang with me, you're going to get to learn a little bit about all of these things. And we'll have a chance for you to ask some questions at the end. So if I don't get to answering your questions, you'll be able to ask those and we'll be able to help you out. So super excited for you to be able to be here with us today. So here's our scenario. I want to introduce you to Blossom Orangutan. She is the executive director of the Bloom Community Center, and she has been there for several years. This last year, they had a wonderful fundraising season. They were able to really produce a lot of great funds for their programs. And in fact, they actually have some kind of a bit extra in reserve. So Blossom has this dream. She's always wanted to be able to open an education station within the community center. This would be a place where the children from the community could come for before and after care for school. They could come for summers and get enrichment programs. So this is something that she thinks maybe this would be the time for them to look at launching this, but they need just a little bit more funding, just a little bit more capital to make this happen. So what she would like us to do today is to help her with a solicitation mailing. Now, the reason she's choosing a mailing and not an email is because she actually has a strategic plan on all of this. She is actually going to send email to most of her stakeholders, most of the people in her database, but she is going to actually segment and pull out of her database some of her constituents that she would like to send a special letter to. We know that letters are expensive. It's a time drain, it's a resource drain, it takes a lot. So you want to make sure that you're really getting a good return on investment when you go to the lengths of actually creating a mailing. But we also know that donors respond well to this because it feels very special in this day and age of emails. So she has a plan around this. So let's look at what she wants us to do. Blossom wants us to send out 3 variations of her letter to 3 different segments of donors today. The first segment is that those donors that have expressed an interest in education. Now, you may wonder, how does she know that information? Well, Blossom, when she came to the community center, actually created a custom field in their database that was all about cause interests. And so she had a list of cause interests that they might be able to help serve. She had workforce development, environmental issues, and one of them is education. So we're going to be able to go into the database and pull that information out and pull those donors who have expressed that interest. So that's a way that you can use custom fields to really hone in on learning more about your constituents and your stakeholders. The second population that she wants us to segment for are highly engaged donors. So for her organization, these are the people that are in there volunteering all the time. They're the people that come to all of the events. They're oftentimes the ones that are telling their friends and bringing people in. These are the ones who really are engaged in the mission. So that's the second group she would like. And then, of course, we have to be realistic. It's going to take some large funding for this project to happen. This is a large project. So she wants us to go back and look at people who have made some larger donations in the past and reach out to them. So those are her segments. Now, why segment? Why is Blossom even doing that? Well, first of all, you can craft a much more focused and direct message when you decide to segment your audience. Instead of sending out a mass mailing that looks like a form letter, we can be much more intentional about how we talk to our audience. You can also make requests based on donation history and affinity for your mission. And you can see that she's really thought about that. She is considering donation history, and she's also considering who is going to have the most affinity for the mission. And you can target certain audiences who are more likely to give. Remember, letters are not cheap. And so we want to be able to really have some ROI. We want to get some return on investment. So these are the reasons why Blossom wants us to be able to segment. So let's go ahead and we're going to actually get into the database and help Blossom do her work. So here we are in Blossom's database, and this dashboard probably looks similar to yours. You can see along the side, we have all of the different areas that we can go into. And today we're going to go into letters. Now, when I click on letters, you can see that I have a few letter templates in here, but none of them really are what I want to utilize. Blossom gave me a very distinct set of text to use. So I'm going to go in and create new. I want to be able to make a new letter. All right, so now there's a question. How are you going to be filtering your audience? So for us today, we're not going to be filtering them by transactions, nor is it going to be by interactions. We're going to actually do this based on our constituents profile. So we're going to click on constituents. So here we actually are entering into our letter template. This is where we're going to describe our letter. So I'm going to name it. Remember to name it something that will stand out to you. I don't know if you're like me, but how many times I've gone back and said, what on earth did I name that? And so make sure you name it something that will make sense to you. So I'm going to name this 2022 Fall. I can't spell solicitations. We go. And then I'm going to put education, because this is going to be for that segment of the population that had the cause interest of education. So now I'm going to click on this drop down, and you can see that we have a lot of purposes why we might be sending, but it's pretty clear that today we're sending this for solicitation. So we're going to click on that. Now, create one letter per, I can choose here either per constituent or per household. I do not want, if I have people within the same household who have engaged with us or donated, I do not want them to get 2, 3 copies of this letter. Again, that's just not logical. So let's go ahead and make this household. It's going to be 1 letter per household. Now, the next 2 you can see are grayed out, but I do want to talk about these so that you're aware of what happens should you click them. By default, they are not selected. Allow blank merge fields. If I click this and I leave it on and I go in and create this letter, when I have merge fields, for example, let's say that I put the address and it doesn't have a street name. There's no street name for the address. What will happen is it will go ahead and create that letter and it will just leave a blank there. And that's going to be a problem. So I really don't want blank merge fields. I think that that will really mess up my letters and I'll be wasting paper. So I'm not going to click that. Allow bad, incomplete, or missing addresses. Again, do I want to have this on? Because if I do, I'm going to get letters printed for people that I don't have addresses for. So I don't want that either. I want them to notify me if it's a bad address. All right, so we're going to move on to next. We're going to click next. And you can see here it comes up with just kind of a basic template, but I'm going to alter this. I want something quite different. The first thing I'm going to do, I know I'm going to be tight for space. So I'm just going to remove the return address. I don't particularly want that on there. I'm going to go back in here. This is the document that Blossom shared with me. This is her letter that she would like me to use. And as you can see, she has dear family name. That's going to be a merge field. We're going to replace that with a merge field. She has a quote. She explains a little bit about the education station. Here's where she's doing her ask, right? And you can see that it is segmented out. Here is the section for people who are interested in education. Here is high engagement donors. Here is large gift donors. Then she talks about donation is easy, different ways they can donate. Remember to check and see if they have a match program. That's always a good thing to mention. And then she puts an inspiring quote from someone within the community that talks about the work they do. And then at the bottom, finally, she signs off and we have a space for her signature down here as well. So I'm just going to copy all of this and go back into my database. And I am going to paste it here. And I'm just using Control V, Control C. And as you can see, this doesn't look pretty right now. This kind of showed up not as pretty. So I'm going to go in and actually add back in spaces. We're going to do some formatting in just a moment too. Okay. And this is that whole section that we're going to need to come back and address because and you can see it's getting upset with me because it's telling me you are going to run out of space. And you are absolutely right, document. I am going to run out of space, but we're going to fix that in just a moment. Okay, so looking here, remember, this is for our education donors. So I can take out the text that doesn't pertain to them. I'm going to take out her instructional text. And I'm going to take out all of the text for the other donors. I'll go back and grab that later. Okay. All right. Oh, that made it happy. Good. I'm so glad. Now, I can also do some other types of formatting. So let's look back here. Remember that she had, oh, I see she has some bolding. She has some color. She has italics. The cool thing is we have this toolbar up here and we can do all of these functions. So we should be able to really recreate what Blossom was looking for. So I'm going to italicize this. You can see it right up here. I'm also going to put this, I like this to be to the end. So I'm going to do that. She bolded education station. So I'm going to do that. This, she did bold. And then you can see up here, this is background color. This is text color. So I want text color. I don't want the background. She had it kind of red. This is the education part. I think this part was red. So I'm going to do that. And it was also bold. Now, looking back here, you can see she also had these as bullets, and we can do that as well. I'm going to click up here on the bullet list. Now, you may be thinking, boy, you're having to do a lot of formatting. Yes, there's some formatting involved. However, the cool thing is, in a minute, I'm going to show you how we can reuse this, and it's going to save us a lot of time. So I do suggest doing formatting, though, because it really does stand out. It makes your letter really have some more impact. So let's make this italics as well. All right. I think this looks pretty good. Now, I do know that Blossom mentioned to me that she would really like to have their logo up here, the logo for her community center. So I can insert images inside here as well. Right here is the kind of the universal sign for inserting an image. So I'm going to click on that. And you can see a little dialog box comes up. Now, I have a couple of different options. I can click here and I can use my Bloomerang image manager. If I've used an image before, it will be in here. So you can see that I have used this image before. So I'm going to click on that in just a moment. I do want to mention, though, if it's an image you haven't used before, you can click down here and you can see that your files will appear. So you're able to really pull in anything that you have downloaded. So, and then it'll be in here next time. So it's kind of a convenient tool. So I'm going to click on that. And it's right here. Looks good. Okay. I want to center that. I feel like that should be centered. Oops, sorry, I have to highlight it first. Excellent. Okay. And now you can see I'm getting that warning again. Well, that's to be expected. I can fix it a couple different ways. If we go over here to page settings, you can see it lists my margins here. I know that I can get away with bumping my margins a little bit, so I'm going to bump my margins. And I'm going to put them back to just half an inch. Update. And you can see that that helped fix it for us. Okay. Another thing I'm going to do, because I can see right now I'm in the danger zone of having this happen again. So for formatting, I'm just going to go ahead and reduce my font. And that's right up here, the font sizes. I'm going to go ahead and make this 14. That'll give me a little extra wiggle room in here. And you can see it also reduces the merge fields. So they'll come in at 14. So unless I change them, and I'll show you that in just a moment too. All right. Now, I know that she would like to have her signature down here. She shared that with me. So we're going to insert an image again. And again, this is one that I've used before. So I'm just going to click on it and click OK. And you can see it replaces the word signature. So I'm going to shrink that down a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm just about ready to start on merge fields. But before I do, I want to show you another really cool feature that you can use when you're making letters in your Bloomerang database. That's the readability test over here. So I'm going to click on this. And you can see this offers two different just pieces of information that might help you as you're creating your letters. The first one's called the U test. And they suggest ideally that you have twice as many U words as you have we words. And you can see that I have not done a great job with that, or actually Blossom has not done a great job of that. We have 11 we's and we have, oh no, I'm sorry. We have 11 U's and we have 15 we's. But keep in mind, this is kind of a communal thing. So she's okay with that. She told me she would be okay with that. The second test that this runs is actually a reading level test. Now, keep in mind that we don't want this to be a dissertation. This is not supposed to be something that's hard to read. We want to make this pretty simple for people to engage with. So they suggest having it between a 6th and 8th grade level, and this is actually at an 8th grade level, so that's appropriate. That's a good level for us. So now I want to go ahead and I'm going to get ready to go into merge fields. But before I do, I just want to take a moment and see if there are any questions about formatting. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, Margie. We have a question here about what if the letterhead or the logo is a full bleed. Can you show us how to adjust the margins so that the logo will be right up against the top of your letter there?
Well, I would guess you would be able to do that. I'm hoping I'm understanding this question right. By going into page settings and adjusting your margins. Correct. Is that, yeah. So I would go in here and just adjust it up to whatever distance you need it to be. So if I make it like that, let me try that again. So it's just going to be able to bump it up. Does that answer the question?
I believe so, yes. So just another thing to keep in mind here is if you want a full bleed like that, make sure that the image itself doesn't have space around it so you get your desired effect, and then you can adjust your margins accordingly.
Yes, that's a great point, Diana. So yeah, make sure that you're cropping it before you bring it in to the database. Yeah, great question. Are there any other questions before we move into merge fields?
Just as a recap here, there's a question about inserting a picture within the text. And we have the logo, which is an image here, and Margie Blossom's signature there is also an image or a picture, correct?
Yes, yeah, it absolutely is. So you can insert images within the text as well. That's not a problem. I could show you initially Blossom had thought of inserting a light bulb here in front of remember. So I could show you that really quickly if you'd like to see it. I don't know if that would be helpful, but I'll just show you. It's going to come in really big. Be ready. Ooh, there it is. We have to kind of shrink it down. She decided against this, though. She felt like she didn't really need it, but you can see that you can do that. That's absolutely not a problem.
And yes, you can insert those images anywhere in your letter. Just place your cursor where you want the image. Great. Thanks, Margie.
Yeah, sure, of course. So now let's move on to merge fields. This is the part where it's really cool because Bloomerang's database is going to do a lot of the work for you. So here, I actually already have some merge fields in place from the template, but I do want to change this one. I don't want this to be the regular just person's name. I want this to be the envelope name. So I am going to backspace over it, get rid of it, and I am going to come over here to the Bloomerang logo. And when I click on it, it's going to bring up all of the different types of constituent fields, all of the different types of address fields, email, all of them. So there's a lot in here. I want envelope name. So I'm just going to I'm going to type in envelope, and you can see it searches it for me, envelope name. Now, remember when I said when I adjusted the font that it wouldn't change when I insert a new merge field. So I'm going to just highlight this whole thing because it's being fussy and I just think that's going to be easier. And I'm going to change that to 14 so it matches the rest of the fonts. Now, I do know that Blossom also wanted to have family name here, but that doesn't really match my Bloomerang fields. So I know that what she's actually looking for here is informal name. And so I'm just going to click that there. And it just automatically inserts it me, which is really great. What that's going to do then is go through my database. It's going to pull all of those fields into my letter. It's very, very cool. Okay, so now When I look up here at these tabs, these are the tabs that you need to do before you like review and print your letters. So I have done the details. That's this section that we did when we first dropped in. Okay, I have done the design. I am going to click save and keep editing at this point, because if I lost this right now, I would cry, and you don't want to see me cry. So I am going to do that. I don't want to lose all the work I've done. Now we're down to filtering. We need to filter for our audience. Inside Bloomerang, inside Blossom's Bloomerang database, she already has a couple of fields that she always has as kind of as a standard for when she's printing letters. She excludes anyone who has an inactive account or is deceased, or anyone who has the restriction of do not mail. We don't want to send mail to people who have asked us not to do that. It's just out of respect. So those automatically came up. I'm going to include a filter. And so including means that this is something that everything is going to have that comes in my results. So in my results, all of them are going to have the cause interest. This is the custom field that Bloomerang put, or Blossom put into her own database. So it's a custom field. Cause interest is, and you can see all of the different ones she selected. Education, and I'm going to click OK. You can see right here that 15 constituents were found that have education as an interest. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to click over here. We're going to preview our letters. All right. So you can see that 15 constituents were found. 3 of them were skipped. And so we're going to have 12 letters to generate. Let's look at our skipped recipients. I'm curious, why were they skipped? Oh my goodness, they have some bad addresses here. So this is something that Blossom wanted me to make note of. So I would make note of this for her so that she could go back and look at those addresses. If you want to see strategies for handling skipped recipients, there's a hyperlink right here that you can click. And that'll actually take you into our knowledge base, and it'll take you right to articles and resources about how to handle skipped recipients. So it's a really great tool to utilize. But I know that Blossom wants to take care of that on her own today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm ready to run. I feel like this is ready to go. Now, when you click run, it doesn't automatically send it to the printer, so please don't worry about that. You actually get the option of doing a test, and I highly recommend this. When you do this, it will create just the first 5 letters. It will not create any interactions on anyone's timelines. It will not add to recent mailings, and it's just to verify that everything's correct. So let's go ahead and click on that. So give us a chance to see those merge fields in action. All right, and let's download our letters. Our letters are ready, and you can see they're downloading right down here in my lower left corner. I'm going to click on that. And voila, here they are. So you can see the Mulder household, dear Mulder household. Now, if you don't like that, if you're like, that just doesn't sound right, you can go back in and edit these letters, and I'll show you that in just a moment, how you can go in and edit ones that you don't like. Archer family, that sounds a little better. You might be happier with that. Peter Parker, these all look pretty good. A couple of them I would probably change. Well, I would change that salutation, right? But overall, I think these look pretty good. So I think that we're ready to run our letters. So I'm just going to click the back arrow. I'm going to go back. So we're back to our preview again, and I'm going to click run again. But this time I'm actually going to create my letters. Now here's what happens when you click create letters. It will create all the letters. It will create interactions on the timelines. It will add to our recent mailings. And these are going to be all the letters that we intend to mail. So I'm clicking on that. We should have 12 letters total. And it's just going to be downloading those letters. I'm going to click here. It'll show up in my lower left corner as a download. I'm going to open it up. And we've already seen the first 5, but you can see if I scroll past, I hope I'm not making you dizzy. Here's Leslie Knope, Parks and Recs fans. You see Anna Lee, the Haverford household. Okay, so these look pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with these. Now, let's say I wasn't pleased with them. Let's say that I didn't think they were ready. I could either go back to letter home, or I could just use the back arrow and I could go back and make changes. Right here, you can see it says make changes. I can edit the contents of the letter, okay? Another thing I want to point out is when we run the letters, we are going to see right here, we can download the addresses as well. And then you can save those as a CSV file and then perform a mail merge. So if you're going to be perhaps printing them onto envelopes, the addresses, or printing them onto labels, this is a great way to do that. So I'm just going to show you how that works. Click download addresses. It's already here. And you can see that we have the addresses all here in Excel. So it's a really great tool to be able to get those addresses for your labels ready to go. It also does do, it loads them up in zip code order. So that kind of makes it easier too if you're looking for a particular constituent. All right, so I'm going to pause there before we move on to Blossom's second letter and see if there are any more questions on that process so far.
All clear on questions so far.
Okay, all right, great. So we're going to move on to doing the second letter. Now, this is the part where I told you that we had a little bit of a heavy lift as far as formatting, but it's going to be a breeze now. So you can see, since we sent our letter, we have the fall solicitation letter for education right here. And I can also see something else. When I clicked the second time on running those letters, do you see how I now have sent that letter twice? That's not what I want to do. I don't want to have this show up twice on people's timelines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the difference between deleting a mailing up here in this section and deleting a mailing down here. Okay, because I need to show you that anyway. So let's do it right now. When I click on this drop down, you can see I have the choices of downloading letters, addresses, or I can delete. Now, when I click on delete, this very scary message comes up. You want to read this message because this is important. It says deleting the mailing will delete the letter PDF and it will remove the interactions from the mailing. So I do want to do this because I actually want to remove the interactions from everyone's timeline. I don't want the letter on their timeline twice. So I am sure I want to do this. I'm going to click on that. Now, if I did it down here, I would click on the drop down. I would go into edit. And I'm not going to do this because I actually want this letter. But I could click delete right here. And what it'll do is it will just delete it from the section. So it won't change the timelines. It won't change interactions. Those things will still remain intact. So that's kind of the difference between those two sections, just to be clear. All right, so I do want to now do our second letter. This letter is going to go to our highly engaged donors. So I'm going to click on that drop down again, and I'm going to click copy this time. And when I do that, you can see right here, I have a copy of that particular letter. I can click on that, and it brings up the formatted letter. So what I'm going to do is use this again. I already have all my merge fields in there. I already have everything I need with the exception of one thing. Remember that this text in the middle is for education. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to grab the highly engaged donors. I am going to, excuse me, I am going to highlight this and I'm going to insert that. I'm going to take out her instructional text. And as you can see, it's not the right size again, so I need to be aware of that. But everything else is already done. So that makes it kind of convenient and simple. The only other thing is, remember, in the details, now it says education copy. I don't want that. I want this to say highly engaged. And my filter isn't going to be correct either because my filter was for education donors. So I'm going to go in here. Keep in mind, we don't want to send a second letter to our education donors. So what we want to do is we want to take this and you can actually just drag it down here and it actually excludes them. So I won't be sending to anyone who had that cause interest of education. I've already printed those letters. So how do we get highly engaged donors? What's that filter going to look like? Well, we're going to go in here and we're going to look for, here it is, engagement level. And I'm going to click on that. Now, engagement level is kind of that thermometer that you see on the dashboard. I want people who are warm, hot, or on fire. These are the people that Blossom feels like this letter should go to today. And you can see I have 74 constituents found. So I have a good number of people who are going to be receiving this letter. So let's go ahead. We're going to save and preview. Right, so 74, where they found 67 households were our individual letters, but 44 were skipped. And again, let's look at those skipped recipients. Boy, bad addresses. So we have a lot of work to do on addresses. So that's something Blossom is going to have to work on. Here are our recipients. So good number, 23 recipients. So we would do the same process that we did before. We're going to click on run. We're going to do the first 5 letters just to get a look at those. Same process, click on download letters, open the PDF. Pam and Jim Halpert, Perry White, these look good. Bugs Bunny. All right, excellent. So I like those letters. I think those look great. Again, I could go in and go back. Same process as we did before, but this time we're going to click run and we're going to run those letters. Okay, download the letters. And scrolling down a little, we can look at some of the ones further down. These look great. So I'm ready to run my letters. Okay. Now, let's go back in. Remember that Blossom had one more that she wanted us to do. The final one. That one is our high-level donors. So we're going to go back to letter home. I meant to go back to letter home to start. There we go. And you can see here we have our education solicitation letter, our highly engaged solicitation letter. Again, and you can check up here. This shows that the interactions went through. It's on people's timelines. Again, we're going to click and copy. This is kind of wash and rinse and repeat. So we're on to the repeat step right now. I'm going to go into details. And I'm going to change this to large donations. All right. The design, remember, I need to change this section out because there's text that actually is specifically designed for our large donors. I'm just using Control-C, Control-V to do this. get rid of that instructional text that she had, and then readjust the font. Everything else will remain the same. So now there's one more thing we need to do. We need to filter this. Again, we don't want to send it to someone we already sent to, so we are going to move that engagement level down to exclude, and we're going to add a filter. So for this one, I need to get people who have given at a high level, and I'm going to look at transactions. So I'm going to come down here. I'm sorry, I'm going to come down here. And it's going to be has transactions. All right, but I don't want just any transaction. I actually want specific transactions. So I'm going to choose to include anyone who has a certain amount. And Blossom feels that for their organization, $1,000 is considered a high level donor. So the amount is between $1,000 and infinity. So this is going to bring up anyone who has given more than $1,000. Let's click on OK. And it's OK again because we had a sub filter. And we have 14 constituents who are considered our high level donors. So let's go in and do the same thing again. We're previewing. We had 5 that were skipped. I bet you it's bad addresses. Yes, it is. Blossom's got her work cut out for her. Here are our recipients. So I'm going to once again go into run. This time I'm going to skip the test. I think you've seen that. So I'm just going to create the letters. Then we can download those and take a quick look. These look pretty good. Now, you may not want, you can see here that we have some companies showing up here. You may not want companies. I know Blossom does, but if you don't want companies, the way to fix that is actually, I'm going to go back to letter home. We're going to filter this again. So on include, we have that specific transaction still, but I want this also to be a certain type. The type is individual because you can see I can have individual or organization. I just want individuals. If I click OK, you can see that that gets rid of any of the companies in there. So you can do that. That's not what Blossom wanted. So I'm not going to do that today. All right. So I do know that I have just sent a letter to Dana Scully. So I want to actually show you, yes, we can leave, what this looks like on Dana's timeline. All right, so here's Dana Scully's constituent profile. And you can see here, maybe I didn't click run because I'm not seeing it. So maybe I need to go back to letters and take a look. Let's look. Large donations. Well, maybe she wasn't in my large donations. I thought I saw her there. Let me go back to my filter and pick somebody else. Maybe because I narrowed it down. Let's do AC Slater. Actually, AC Slater is really easy. I don't have to search AC Slater because it's right at the top. Okay, I'm not seeing AC either. That's making me think something. That's making me think that somehow these did not get recorded. Let's look at our education donors. And I'm going to go back and check on what happened with that in a little bit here. I know we're getting short for time. I'm going to put in Buster Blues. All right, let's take a look at Buster Blues. For some reason, I'm not showing these today, and I'm not sure why that is happening. So That's something that I will have to go back in and check. Diana, do you have any thoughts around that? Why that might be happening?
That could be happening because if we're taking a look at the filters now, those are the folks who will get the letter if we run the letter now, not the folks that previously were included in the mailing.
Oh, okay. All right. So is there a way for me to resolve that here?
If you take a look at, if you go under most recent mailings and look at the letters there,
Yeah.
you can download the letters and check on one of those names.
Okay. I guess I picked the wrong place to look. So how about Miss, let's look at Ms. Pepper Potts, just because her name's kind of fun too. So and take that off. I'm in a rough go of it today. All right. She's not showing up. We did see Peter Parker. Let's go back and try Peter Parker. You guys cross your fingers for me. I'm having some technical issues today. Here we go. Oh, there it is. Yay. All right. So Peter Parker, we can see here on his timeline that he did receive our solicitation mailing. And I can also look at it on here when we go onto his timeline. Right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click into that. And you can see I can actually look at the generated letter right here. And I can see exactly what we sent to him and what it would look like. Now, also, let's say I didn't particularly like something in this letter, or maybe I want to add a personal note or something. I can actually edit the letter right here inside the database. Maybe I want to put, oh, I don't know. Let's put just a PS. Great to see you at the event last week. Okay, so I can do that, save it. And I can download it and print it. So I can actually send a personalized letter to Peter from this space as well. Are there any questions on that whole process? Because I know that was a lot. And I see, Becky, you're asking, would these missing names be under engagement level? I don't know. Let me look here real quick. I'm wondering, I'm trying to understand that question a little bit better. So Becky, can you give me a little more on that and help me understand the question just a little bit better?
While we're waiting for that, we have a question here from Lynn. If you want or need to run just 1 or 2 letters after you've run the batch, are you able to do that?
Yes, actually, that process that I just showed you, you could go in and just run those 1 or 2 letters, just kind of as one-offs from going into the constituents timeline and printing it off from there. Yeah, absolutely. I see Jocelyn's asking, is there a way to have the letter printed and emailed at the same time rather than going throughout the process separately? So Jocelyn, you would probably do those as separate actual actions. So yeah, if you wanted to do that, you could definitely do that, but it would be separate. You would do letters here, and then of course emails you would go through here.
And we have a question here as well. I think this was if you go back to your letters.
Yes.
I think this was either with our This might be with our large donations. There's a question: when you selected 1,000, is this a single transaction or cumulative giving?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's go back and look at that filter. So since this is a specific transaction, this is actually, I believe that this is going to be a one-time transaction of $1,000. So I don't think it's a cumulative.
Yep, that's correct. This is a single transaction. So if you want to change this to cumulative, you would click on has any. Oops, go back a little bit.
Sorry.
Or click cancel and then click cancel on the filter. Yep. And then where it says has any specific transactions, click on that one. And then where it says has any, if you wanted a cumulative amount, you can take a look at the calculated, and that will give you totals. Great question.
Yeah.
We have a question here from Karen. Can you filter those who only have an email address and no physical address?
Yes, you actually can do that as well. So let's go back here. And I think I'm going to do that with education donors. Let's go into filter. So let's say that I wanted to have just the people who have an email address. Okay, so in this, I'm going to say and.
I think the filter you're looking for is has email.
Thank you. Has email addresses. And so has any is fine for this. We want to get people who have any email address. And I think then we would want to say and. I'm trying to see if there's a mailing address.
That would be has address.
Thank you. And for that one, we would say has no addresses because we could have selected any of those options here. And then I don't have anyone who fits that unbelievably because I have so many bad addresses in there, but that would bring up people who just have an email address. So thank you, Diana.
Interesting to note here as well that since we are working in letters, we probably want to exclude these. So excluding folks who don't have a mailing address but do have an email address. But the nice thing about that is if whether or not you need to include or exclude them, you can just drag and drop the filters as needed.
Absolutely. So I do want to go ahead and show you one last thing before we have to depart for the day. Thank you all so much for being here again. I do want to show you the NCOA offering that comes standard with your Bloomerang database. So if you go into settings on your dashboard, my organization, and then if you scroll down, you're going to see a section here that says NCOA. This stands for National Change of Address. This is an offering that it just comes standard with your subscription. So mine is already activated. If yours is not activated, it'll say activate NCOA dashboard. You'll want to click on that. The reason why is because this actually will help update your bad addresses every evening. So you'll come through with fresh addresses after you've done that. I'm going to go ahead and show you the dashboard really quickly because it does have some really interesting information on it. So you can see here, there's information about addresses that are not valid. There's quite a few here. A lot of information about what types of addresses are the issue and recent updates. So that's a really great thing to be able to utilize as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click back into my slideshow. All right. Now, as we talked about before, this is kind of part of a larger strategy for Blossom and for her organization. So we don't want this to be a one and done. We don't want this to be something where they're sending, we're sending out a letter and it just goes out into the ethers, because if you do a one and done, it's probably going to be done. You're probably not going to get much response. So what could we do to get us from that solicitation mailing to donor engagement, to having our donors engage with us? So one thing we could do is assign someone to make a quick follow-up phone call. Maybe it's a board member, maybe it's a staff member, just to check in with the person, see if they got the letter, see if they have any questions, help them understand the project a little bit better so that maybe they'll want to donate. Send them invitations to events and volunteer opportunities for your organization. That way they get a chance to see all of the work you're doing in action. Maybe invite them to serve on a committee. Maybe it's a steering committee for the education station for Blossom's example, but make sure that they are engaged with those types of things. Make sure that they're getting any organization-wide updates. You don't want this to seem like you just sent them a letter to ask for money and they're not really being included on other things as well. And maybe include them on a survey to find out what they feel about the initiative, what would be important to them, what are things that they really think would be vital for this as a part of their community. So other resources, remember that this slideshow is going to be shared with you in this recording. I really recommend these resources for you to be able to find out more about solicitation letter writing and about all of the processes that we went through today. And also don't forget, on your database, this question mark, if you click on it, will take you to our knowledge base. And there you can actually look up just about anything and get all kinds of resources. You can also submit a ticket for our customer support if you should need that. All right, we went through questions already. I want to thank you all for being a part of our webinar today, and I'm going to turn it back over to Diana. Diana.
Yes, thank you so much, Margie. That was a lot of wonderful information. And we did want to launch a poll here. If you're interested in NCOA processing or perhaps additional coaching and consulting services, let us know in the poll. We have just a recap question here, if you wouldn't mind, Margie, is can we show the button again on how to turn on the NCOA option?
We sure can. That's an easy one. This was my first ever webinar with Bloomerang, and you all are very kind. So I really appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go back to the dashboard and I'm going to show you from there. All right. You go to settings, my organization. This is where you can edit all of your organization's information. You scroll down and you're going to see it right down here. And that button right here will say activate. If it says activate, that means you haven't activated it yet, and you want to go ahead and do that.
Lovely. That's all we have for you today. We hope this helps as a starting point for you as you're thinking about your solicitation mailings heading into fall, heading into end of the year. If you have suggestions for other classes, please let us know as well. And Margie, any parting words for our friends today?
No, just thank you all so much for all the work you do. Thank you for engaging with us, and continue to look at the website and engage in more of our webinars, because we want to help you really get the best out of your platform.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we hope that we see you in another Academy class soon. Have a great day. Bye.
Oh.